Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we're going to discuss week 32 of 2022. Let's get going. Week 32 was fantastic. It was much different than the, 8-9 weeks before it. Of course, week 31 wasn't too bad. Towards the end of it, we got some rain and it cooled off quite a bit. But the best part about this week has been the evening times are dropping below 70. So a lot of our determinate plants that are still alive, they are starting to thrive. There are blooms everywhere. Now, it's not going to help things like our pickling cucumbers because, they're done already. So are our Roma tomatoes. But our cherry tomatoes and the slicing cucumbers here behind us, they're just starting to take off, blooms everywhere. I'm not sure what we're going to do with all the rest of them, but just kind of an update on where we are as far as the homestead side, putting food away for the winter. We have exceeded our goal for our tomatoes for this year. So those of you who have been watching know we've had a lot of Roma tomatoes this year. So we like to freeze ours. We roast them with peppers, or we can do the Italian style, or you do them with your basil and oregano and such. And then we portion them individually for, Leslie and I for one meal, and then we freeze them. The reason for that is we just don't have enough cupboard space for everything else. As far as the pickles are concerned, we also have exceeded our pickles. It looks like we're going to come up a little short, probably by about a half dozen or so on the okra. We still have quite a bit of time left on that though, but the okra is not putting off like we would normally like. So we do have a friend of the family that has a lot of okra this year, so we might just sort of do some trading and see if we can't trade a few things, some cantaloupe or watermelons or something for some okra. So before I get too far into this, I did want to show you Leslie's loofah. So let's go take a look at what Leslie's doing.
Hello everyone. I wanted to share some things that we did this week since this is our weekly vlog and just discuss the excitement. This was a big hit on some of the gardening groups that we've joined through social media. So I thought I'd share this with you all. So this is our loofah. 2 years ago, I had purchased some plants at the Master Gardener's plant sale here in town and decided, well, I didn't realize that loofah was not an ocean type thing. So it turned out to be a plant. Thank you, sir. And I decided to grow 3 plants. Well, from those seeds, I grew 6 this year. And they have a long grow season that takes about 120 days to maturity to harvest. And you start getting fruits. I've learned since then it's a fruit, not a vegetable. But they come on like this, and they'll start out green, and as it progresses, they will get ripe, and in the center of them, it will start to dry out. And then whenever the husk itself, the peel is what I like to call it, it starts to dry out and turn a little yellow and brown, then you know that it's getting ready to come off. And then you peel it, and this is the end result. These have been sitting out for about 3 or 4 days, and they're dry, and this is a sponge you can use in your shower. Some people like to take goat's milk soap and put them on pieces of this and use it in the shower. It's super fun. You collect the seeds shake right out. Super exciting. So I plan on getting a ton more off of here. As you can tell, there's new growth every day. And you can probably pick these up until your very first frost. Some people leave them on the vine until that very first frost just because it's easier to peel and pull off. I like to get them early because I get excited. So thought I'd share our loofah adventure with you. So thank you.
So we can see Leslie's loofahs are still moving right along. So before we go too much further into the video today, I just kind of wanted to walk through and show you all the vegetables that are still producing. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at some of the upcoming projects. Hey, Otis. Otis likes coming out to the garden since we've got another garden cat. He comes out and gets as much of attention as he can for himself as well. You enjoying the cooler mornings, buddy? All right. Okay, so let's go down here. One of the things that has started to happen is we've started getting more butternut. So that was worth keeping those guys alive through that, you know, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks of just crazy weather that we had this summer. But the butternut, we haven't quite eaten all the butternut we got from the spring. We had that huge lull there. So we're hoping that these continue to put off. So, you know, we were hoping to get about 28 of them or so this year. So far, I think we've only gotten like 6. So we got a lot of room to make up. But I wanted to show back here, you can see all of the blooms that are coming on our slicing cucumbers. During when it's really hot like it has been, or like it was, I'm sorry, the slicing cucumbers, they have a tendency to come off a little misshapen. You know, they'll have like skinny tips on them or something along those lines. But now that the weather is starting to get a little bit more balanced, the cucumbers are coming out where they're even and symmetrical, so that's cool. For those of you who regularly watch the channel, you'll know that we started our corn a little late in the season, and it's doing really well. You can see we're getting quite a bit of corn actually starting, so the ears are coming off. We haven't quite eaten it yet, but I wanted to include it in here because, you know, it was the first time that we started it this late. We've never really had success with corn. We've been told that if you wait a little longer, perhaps you might have some more luck. So we did that this year, and so far it looks like it's working out well. We are also getting melons galore. We have gotten, since this weather changed, you can see all the blooms on the cantaloupe and the watermelons. Now, we still have not gotten, believe it or not, we still have not gotten our first watermelon yet. We've had a lot of cantaloupe. But hopefully that watermelon comes off soon. We have a rather large one inside of the bed. We're looking forward to eating it. Again, banana peppers. We have put up more banana peppers than I know what to do with. We eat banana peppers on our Friday pizza every week. We have given banana peppers away. We've tried to pickle them. That didn't work out very well. Again, we fermented them, and they didn't do well. So next year, we're just going to cook them on the stove and pickle them that way, because I love them pickled. But we also froze a bunch. I want to see how that goes. There's a pasta sauce recipe I have with peppers as the base. So we're also getting a lot of bell peppers, you can see, and they're getting pretty decent sizes to them. They're all over the place. So at the beginning of the year, you know, we were probably getting, I don't know, 1 bell pepper for every 6 or 7 banana pepper. It's starting to even out just a bit more now. We're also getting mass amounts of these cayenne peppers, and as much as I hate to admit it, I've never been a fan of cayenne peppers. This year I took a half-gallon jar and just started throwing them in there and filled it up with apple cider vinegar. I've been eating that stuff on everything. But you can see these plants are loaded with the babies, and then there's just flowers everywhere. So again, one of the reasons I'm showing this is just because we did go through that 6 to 8 weeks where things were, it was all we could do to keep everything alive. I was starting at, you know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, baby and everything. And everything has turned out really well. Oh, while we're here, right there, see those 2 little holes? I took the kale out finally. The reason for it was, I thought for whatever reason that these cayenne peppers would not grow as tall as they are, and they totally shaded out my kale. So next year I won't make that mistake. And then of course over here we have our, let's say hello to the neighbors. Over here we have the Swiss chard, and it's coming along awesome. We're still eating Swiss chard, you know, 3-4 times a week. It's delicious. We eat it raw in a salad. It's the way we eat ours. We'll take a couple of those large leaves, and then we'll come up here and grab some of these more tender ones, and it makes a really good salad, especially with tomatoes and cucumbers. So you can see, went through and I chopped. I do this usually, you know, in August. I do the August chop on my cherry tomatoes. But the thing I wanted to show you about that is you can see now how it is starting to fill in. And what's going to happen is, because of the way the sun, the reason I do it in August, right, is once you get on the other side of the summer solstice, what you want to do is you trim it back, because there's a few reasons for it. Number one, it's hot. All the bottom parts of your tomatoes, they've already put off. They've done all that sort of stuff already, and the plant is done with them. So you want to remove that to cut down on the energy the plant needs on old things. Also, the older the limbs are, the more prone they are to diseases and such. So anyway, you get rid of all of that, and then as the days start getting shorter, what's going to happen is you'll start getting all this new growth that's going to pop up, and it's going to create a canopy much like it did in the spring. You'll get a fall canopy, but it'll be much different because it's working in reverse. Instead of working, you know, the days getting longer, the days are working in reverse, and it gives the plant a chance to create a canopy that's going to be ideal for it as far as absorbing the sun. So it's a great way to go through and prune your cherry tomatoes and make sure that they last through the entire year as long as you can. And you can see here, let's get a little close up. These are the ones that are starting to set now. So right now we have, you know, we don't have as many as we did earlier because of the trimming, but you can see, I mean, we are going to have, you know, as many, if not more, in our fall round as we did in our spring and summer rounds. But so we're pretty excited about this. I didn't show it on the video, but I do want to point out when I went through to did the trimming, as soon as I was done with it, I went through and I added blood bone meal to this bed, and I washed it in with some of the fish emulsion. And the reason I did that is just to make sure as the tomato continues to put off that these tomatoes have everything they need to stay nice and sweet and avoid the blossom end rot. Just real quick, this parsley has done much better than what we anticipated. So anyway, we have some more seeds of it, and I will probably make sure that I continue growing that type. Wanted to show in here, those of you who saw last week, I'll put a link up here above. But last week, these guys were much shorter than they are. But what I wanted to show was that the way I grow my tomatoes is I only fill these up halfway. And then once the tomatoes get tall enough, I'll go ahead and fill them up the rest of the way. That gives that bottom portion of the plant a chance to add more roots. You can see how fuzzy those guys are there at the base. If you cover that up, those little fuzzy areas, you cover that up with dirt, and those will all turn into roots. You know, the more roots you have, the better chance that you have of making sure your tomato gets all of the vegetables and things that it needs. So my cabbages are a bust though. I think it's too hot still. We're still getting daytime temperatures, you know, right around 100 degrees. Actually next week though, there's like 2 or 3 days where the highs are in the low 80s or upper 70s. So I cannot wait for that. But anyway, as of right now, these cabbages have not taken off. So we're hoping, it could also be the seeds. The seeds are 2 years old, and we kind of got them in a bundle just to try some things. So what we may do is just get a higher quality cabbage seed next year. Well, now that we've kind of seen the vegetables that we're still pulling off here in the late summer, what I'd like to do is kind of give you an idea of what we plan to accomplish over the next couple weeks. Again, we're getting into that time where planning your fall garden is important. After looking at our summer garden, we have decided that we want to add a couple more raised beds here to the top garden. We're also decided that the top garden here is where we're going to continue to do our fall garden. Nowhere else are we going to plant fall vegetables. We're going to allow the summer vegetables, the indeterminate varieties, to kind of run their course. All the determinate varieties we'll pull out as we go. We're going to try to have all of the beds filled by middle of October. We'll cover them with leaves, and we won't touch them again until next year. So the pallet bed will be our spring garden bed. The old garden over there will only have a summer garden in it, and the garden behind us next year will also have a summer garden and a fall garden. So now that we've talked through that, let's go ahead and I'll show you where we're going to put in the new raised beds. Before we head in here to show you where we're going to put the new beds, I just wanted to sort of add on to what Leslie was saying. She had a volunteer loofah plant that came up here where her bee balm and stuff is at. And so we just kind of let it go and grow on the fence. And look at the size of this guy. It'll be ready to peel here before much longer. You can tell the skin's starting to turn light. Look at all those ants. These ants, for whatever reason, love loofahs. All right. You watching, Ray? All right. So as I said, anybody who watches the channel, the last 2 years we grew on this bottom side of the top garden, we grew potatoes. Now, the first year we got a bunch of potatoes and it was super awesome. This year, we didn't get hardly any potatoes. Now there were a bunch of potatoes that grew in there, but we didn't get any of them. And the reason for that was the stupid heat that we had. It literally turned, this down here I did with a tiller, so it wasn't, you know, in raised beds. So I turned it, went through and planted, and the soil down here has got a really heavy clay component to it. Anyway, so at the end of, or I'm sorry, it was the end of May. It was either the end of May or early June. We had, you know, about 5.5 inches of rain over a couple days. After that, we didn't get rain again until just last week. So I say that because the highs were in the hundreds routinely, and this whole area just turned rock hard, even though I put straw and compost on it. So what I did was I just broke the tiller out and I went through here and we just shredded a bunch of potatoes. These are, I put some of the bigger pieces that I cut up over here. But anyway, so there were like 5 potatoes that weren't just like slice and dice from the tiller. So anyway, what we've decided to do is we're gonna go through, and from that end, probably till about, I don't know, right through here. So sort of keeping with this same theme that we have here. But what I'm more than likely, what I'll do is I will put in just 2 large beds or 1 bed and just take it and build it right up against the chain link over here, or I'm sorry, the chicken wire fence over here, and have it come out maybe 24 inches or so. That way I can reach everything from the front side, since I won't be able to walk on the back side. I want to make sure I can reach the other side to weed it and harvest and that sort of thing. But what we'll do is, if we're going to do a single one, it'll probably be all carrots. Now, I would love to have a bed of carrots that stretched all the way through here. We will also do, if we can, if we decide to do it in 2 beds, then we'll do carrots in one and we'll do beets in one. And then we'll do an extra bed of beets, essentially is what it is. So, because we already have, you know, a carrot bed, which is this one here. We're gonna grow it in carrots. And we're gonna do that bed and that bed right there in turnips. And then where the Roma tomatoes were, once we pull the basil out this week, up there we're gonna put in beets. We'll put beets in down there. And then this bed here, depending on whether or not I get any cabbages up, if I do, I'll grow cabbages in this bed. If I do not get any cabbages up by the time 1st of September rolls around, then I'll probably do additional beets, or I'll do lettuce in this bed. So I'd like to have a massive bed of lettuce if I can. I haven't decided where to put it yet, but if we get, you know, these bigger beds down here built, that will give me a lot more room to sort of take my fall garden to another level. So sort of keeping on the theme just for a second of doing our fall beds, keep an eye out for a video. It should come out Thursday of this week. I'm gonna go ahead and fill the beds, and I kind of want to go over how I do that, how I prep my beds that we raised vegetables in the summertime, how we transition from the summertime into the fall, the way we use our compost and our supplements for that. Anyway, that should be coming out Thursday. I believe that should be it for this week. We really appreciate you folks sticking here till the end. If you enjoyed this, consider giving it a like. If you have not, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help us out quite a bit in reaching our goals. Until next time, I hope that all you folks take care of yourselves. Peace.